Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello and welcome to the presentation today, 3 IELTS Vocabularies, Activity 1. I'm Professor Nguyen, an IELTS professor here at Avant Healthcare, and thanks again for everyone attending today. We're going to go over in a 3-part series, and today is the first part, about the 3 types of vocabulary that you need to succeed on the IELTS exam. Make sure that you download the handout that is available for you. Can everyone hear me okay? Yes? All right. No questions? Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. And those that are going to go ahead and log in, they can go ahead and log in and join us in the course of the presentation. So let's go ahead and let's get started. All right, let's see here. Okay. So first of all, here is what we're looking at for today. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce the 3 types of IELTS vocabularies that you need to be aware of. You may already be aware of 2 of these, and then we're going to look at the end IELTS vocabulary 1. So we're also going to cover how to build a vocabulary, how to know a word. When do you really know a word? Key prefixes and suffixes, which will help you with your vocabulary, synonyms and antonyms, and we have some activities for that to do together. And as I said, finally, IELTS Vocabulary 1, and we have a short activity for that as well. So let's go ahead and get started here looking at the 3 IELTS vocabularies. So the 3 IELTS vocabularies are what I call regular vocabulary, collocations, idioms, and phrasal verbs, and topic vocabulary. As you know, there are certain topics on the IELTS tests which are important to know about. You may see these in the speaking test or on the writing test. And you need to be aware of the vocabulary that's associated with these certain topics. That will be in the 3rd part of the series. Tomorrow we're looking at collocations, idioms, and phrasal verbs, and today, regular vocabulary. Mark Twain, who was a 19th century U.S. novelist, once was quoted as saying, "Don't use a $5 word when a 50-cent word will do." All right, so you don't have to use large vocabulary words to try to impress people. As you know from the previous presentations that I've talked about, you always want to be able to use the right word at the right time. And yes, at times, as you know, you're going to need synonyms and perhaps antonyms to be able to help you to substitute your own words for the vocabulary that's in the prompt. Remember, we never want to reuse the vocabulary that the IELTS people give you. Of course, the idea is to show your vocabulary. So the best move that you can make today, or anyone who's going to take either the TOEFL test, IELTS test, any of these standardized English tests, is to improve your vocabulary for a higher score. And it takes time to acquire in a vocabulary. So if you have 3 months that you have, or 2 months, whatever time that you have before taking the test, you want to try to increase your vocabulary as much as possible. So again, the three types of vocabulary, and here's some examples. For example, regular vocabulary like the word adept, right, which means skillful. Or collocations, idioms, and phrasal verbs like golden opportunity, one of the color idioms, for the best chance to accomplish a goal. And finally, topic vocabulary. As you know, there are certain topics on the IELTS test which they favor. And one of those is education. For example, the word matriculate. Matriculate, to register as a student for classes. So education, technology, business, the environment, these are the type of topics on the test that are used fairly often, and you need to be aware of the vocabulary attached to each of these topics. All right, we'll get into that much deeper in the third series of the three IELTS vocabularies. So onward with how to build a vocabulary, and then we're going to look at the vocabulary type 1. So just how would you go about building a vocabulary? Unfortunately, it seems like, just like as I've lamented about writing, vocabulary is also a part of the IELTS preparation that people have trouble with at the beginning. Vocabulary sometimes is not emphasized in English classes around the world, and or it's only attached with reading, and there's not a lot of significance given to it. However, when you go to take these tests, the IELTS or TOEFL, you need a strong vocabulary. So here are some ways, some suggestions for you of how to build vocabulary. All right. So first of all, have an awareness of words, right? When you're reading, notice the words that are used. You're probably reading about a certain topic or something. So notice the words that are used in the article that you're reading. And number two, of course, read. And you want to read outside your comfort zone. So if you're in the medical field, which most of you probably are, then you want to read outside the medical field. You want to read a book report or a movie review or a travel article or a financial article. You want to be able to branch out of your comfort zone and challenge yourself to learn about different topics in English, and also to learn the vocabulary associated with those topics in English. Use a dictionary, not a bilingual dictionary like Spanish English or French English. Use a monolingual, just a plain English dictionary. And there are some great ones that are online that you can use, like Oxford or Cambridge or Longman. And we're going to look at, when we look at an exercise here, we're going to look at Merriam-Webster, which is basically the dictionary of the American English, is the Merriam-Webster dictionary. So you want to keep a dictionary close by when you are learning vocabulary words. Number 4, learn new words every day. So as you continue to read and to branch out, note down, like in number 5, keep a vocabulary notebook. Note down the words that you are learning. What I would do when I was learning Spanish is that I first started off writing down just the words, and then I started writing down phrases that contain those words so that I would have more context. When I would go to the dictionary to try to figure out what the word means, I would have the rest of the context around it, so it would help me to understand the word. Because as you know, sometimes the words have different meanings depending on their context, and you want to remember that context from your reading. So in your vocabulary notebook, note down not only just the word, the key word, of course, but maybe 2 words or 3 words before it and 2 or 3 words after it. Number 6, study word lists. Now, the of course, research indicates, and it's of course true, I think from experience for teachers will tell you this, reading is the best way to improve your vocabulary. However, when you have a limited time, and especially in the testing condition, you don't always have all the time that you need to be able to read, and that's going to restrict your time to study vocabulary. So with the time limit or a time deadline before the exam, one of the fastest ways to try to improve your vocabulary is to study word lists. Now, not lists of words that are kind of randomized, because when you're reading, you're going to pick up a lot of words that may not be that are kind of like randomized. They're not all associated with a certain topic. But when you study word lists and you study words that are associated with a broad topic, like for example the environment or education, then research indicates that it's easier for the brain to pick out those words when you need them, right? Like if you need when you're speaking or when you're writing, instead of trying to find an isolated word, the brain can more easily pick out vocabulary that's associated with a broad topic. So if you study topical, broad topics of word lists, find the definition, write a sentence with the words, then that's going to help you boost your vocabulary as well. And finally, of course, yes, read, yes, find vocabulary words, but you need to study those words and review them regularly. Now, I'm going to look at some resources here that's going to help you do that. And one of those is Quizlet.com, where you can do electronic flashcards online. And not only can you create those flashcards, but you can study the flashcards of other people that they've created. So you want to study your vocabulary regularly. All right. Now, as I said, here are some resources to help you study vocabulary. So we're going to look at Merriam-Webster online, m-w.com, Merriam-Webster online, which is what I call the official American English Dictionary. SAT word challenges. Now, this is, if you're familiar, the SAT is like the test that American high school students take before going to college. And they, on this website here, they have some vocabulary in context, and they ask you to find the definition of that word. So this is a good way to test yourself with some rather interesting words. Not all of them, I would say, would be so common in English, but definitely for academic English, and that's what the academic IELTS is all about. So you can go there to test your vocabulary. And finally, as I mentioned, Quizlet, Quizlet.com, which is the electronic flashcards. You can create an account, and you can create your own flashcards or review the ones of others on there as well. All right, so those are some hints on how to build a vocabulary, but have you ever wondered, well, how do I really know a word? What does that mean to really know a word? Well, here are, you could say, here are 8 things to consider when you're trying to find out just exactly what does a word mean. First of all, you want to know the pronunciation of the word. Thankfully, that's easy today. All you have to do is go to any of these dictionaries, look up the word, and click on the icon, and you can listen to it and see what the pronunciation is. Before, you had only in the parentheses the breakdown of the syllables, and you had to have someone really sometimes say the word for you so you'd understand what it means. But today, it's so easy using the audio that's on the dictionaries. Number two, of course, yeah, know the meaning of the word. Number three, not only know the meaning, but the context of the word. And sometimes the context changes. And when the context changes, you need to know to be able to understand what the meaning of the word is in the different situations. Number four, is the word negative or positive? What is the connotation of that word? Um, and number five, what is its part of speech? Is it a noun? Is it an adjective? Is it an adverb or a verb? Preposition. What is this part of speech? How is this word used in the language? And again, we're going to look at an entry in Merriam-Webster for a word, and we're going to look at these different aspects. Number six, what is a synonym for the word? Number seven, what is an antonym for the word? And finally, can you write a sentence with the word? Write a sentence with the word. Writing it down, it means that you're going to remember it. So in your vocabulary notebook, you would want to write a sentence using that word. And if you write it down, then you'll remember it. Actually, it takes about 7 times of seeing a word before you actually understand it or remember it. And remember, there's 2 vocabularies. There's active, which is what you use when you're speaking, and passive, which is what you use when you are reading. So that you come across a word and you're like, oh yeah, I know what that word means. But you wouldn't actively use it in your daily conversation or your daily writing. And the object, of course, is to move over the passive vocabulary over to the side of the active vocabulary to increase your vocabulary. All right, so let's look at a word here, beneficial. All right, let's look it up in the dictionary. So I'm going to share my screen here, and we're going to go to the word. I already have it up here. Okay, make sure everyone can see this here. All right, so here is Merriam-Webster Dictionary, merriam-webster.com. You can Google it and easily find it. So we're looking at the word beneficial. Beneficial. Okay, let's start here at the top. So bold letters, they tell you it's an adjective, so we know the part of speech. Then they give you the pronunciation of the word as well. And then the definition of beneficial. Producing good results or helpful effects. And sometimes words have a second definition. And this is where the context helps you of how it was used. Okay, and notice they give you a little extract here of how the word is actually used in a sentence or in a phrase. So they help you put the word in context. They give you alternative words. What is beneficial as an adverb? Beneficially. And beneficialness, well, maybe. I really have never heard that used. But we're looking at a dictionary and they're going to give you as much information as possible about a word. But beneficially, yeah. As an adverb, sure. So we know the noun, we know the adverb, and of course the original word beneficial is the adjective. So you're already getting the parts of speech of the word, and the dictionary provides that for you. They even give you the audio for that. Synonyms. Aha. A synonym for beneficial, advantageous, benefic, beneficent, yes, benignant, favorable, okay. Antonyms, bad, disadvantageous, unfavorable, unfriendly, unhelpful, and unprofitable. All right, so they give you synonyms and nouns right here for you. They use the word in a sentence for you. He hopes the new drug will prove beneficial to many people. Regular exercise has many beneficial health effects. So they give you two sentences that use the same word, but they have slightly different contexts of how they're used. And so by going to the dictionary, you can get a sentence that will help you put the word in the proper context. And Merriam-Webster, they actually pull, I guess you could say, live examples out of literature or print publications using that word and illustrating the two different definitions that we saw above. So a dictionary is definitely your friend when you are learning vocabulary in another language, and using a monolingual dictionary that is English only in our case is the most beneficial for you. And do not use the bilingual dictionary. That is something that language learners use early on, and there is some benefit for doing that. But at this stage, you should only be using the English language dictionaries. Okay. All right. So there is how to know a word. All right. Make sure that you download the handouts so that you'll have a copy of this in the web addresses as well. Now, let's look at another aspect of vocabulary, and that is key prefixes and suffixes. All right. So here are some common prefixes. Remember, the prefix comes before the root word. Before the root word. For example, the first one, auto. Auto means self. So for example, autobiography, right? Here's the root word, or I'm sorry, here's the prefix before the root word biography. Combine them together and you have autobiography. Of course, this is very common in English and also very common in medical terminology, as you probably know already. I don't have to tell you about that. Prefixes and suffixes in the medical language. But here are some common ones, common prefixes in the English language. So let's go through here. Synonyms and antonyms. Okay. All right. So let's look at a handout here. So let me bring it up on the screen. See if we can bring this up here. Okay, let's see if it came up. Looks like it didn't. Okay. So we do this live. All right, here. So let's see, antonyms. Let's see if we can do this here. So as you know, antonyms, we're looking for the opposites, right? We're looking for the opposites. And let's just look at the first 5 here. And let's take, well, let's get you involved here, participating here. So we have 5 sentences, and we need to find the antonym of the word here above in our word bank. All right. So number 1, the blacktop is paved. Who has the answer for that? Who has the antonym for that one? Anyone? Anyone know the antonym for paved from the word bank? Who's participating today? Raise your hand if you're going to participate. Okay. All right. Grace. Okay, let's go to Grace. Hello, Grace. Are you there? Grace, can you unmute yourself there? All right, Grace, go ahead.
Yes, yes, I.
Oh, okay, go ahead. Help
Is
us
the
out
un
here.
is it unpaved?
So the field is what?
Unpaved.
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 All right, very good. Yeah,
Yes.
unpaved. All right, so there is no concrete down, right? It's unpaved. All right, thank you very much, Grace. Let's go on to number 2 here. The big slide is fast. All right, so the opposite, the small slide is, who has that? Who has that one? What is the opposite of fast? All right, Lynchy, go ahead.
The opposite of fast is slow.
All right, so the small slide is,
The small slide is slow.
all right, the small slide is slow. Thank you very much. Very good. All right, let's just do one more here. The bouncy ball. The bouncy ball is inflated. The flat ball is, all right. The bouncy ball is what? What would we say? All right, let's see who's participating here. Fayen? Okay. Are you there? Go ahead. Fayen? Go ahead and unmute yourself. All right. Faye? Never. Okay. Uh, Anna, are you there? Hello,
Hello.
Anna Lorraine? Yes, go ahead. So the bouncy ball is inflated. The flat ball is
The flat ball is deflated.
deflated. All right, very good. Deflated. All right, thank you very much. So as you can see, I mean, this is a short exercise, but you want to be able to learn the synonyms as well as the antonyms to help you to build your vocabulary. It's just as important to know the antonyms of words as it is synonyms. You never know which one you are actually going to need. Okay. All right, so let's return to our presentation here. Okay, everybody's back on board. All right. Now, finally, IELTS Vocabulary 1. So we've looked at how to build your vocabulary, how to keep a vocabulary notebook, how to use the dictionary to help you find the definitions of words. And now let's look at some of those words. So, for example, property, right? Property, real estate. Throw you a curveball here. So we have a multiple choice. We have lease, liability, asset, to safeguard, the verb, and proprietor. And we need to match them on the right with the correct definition. All right. So a lease. What is a lease, or what does it mean to lease? When you were looking for the verb form, notice that some of these words have a verb form and the noun form is the same. For this one, it's to lease. To lease. Who has the answer for to lease? What does to lease mean? Ana Blanca? All right, let's go here. Ana, are you there?
Yes.
All right. To lease.
Letter C, to rent for a long time.
All right, very good. Letter C, to rent for a long time. Thank you, Ana. All right. Number 2, liability. Liability. What is a liability? What's a liability? What's a liability? Does anyone know? All right, Marga. All right, Marga, can you all right, Marga, go ahead. What is a liability?
It's disadvantage.
Very good. Liability would be a disadvantage. All right. Very good. Thanks. A disadvantage. So as you can see, we're looking at some real estate or economic business terms here. Again, as I said, you need to have a broad vocabulary. But some of these words are, of course, used pretty common day in the English language. All right. Number 3, asset. What is an asset? So we have liability, and now we have asset. What is an asset? What is an asset? What letter is asset? All right, Michelle says it is letter B, and she's correct. A valuable possession. An asset is a valuable possession. Okay. Number 4, to safeguard. Number 4, to safeguard. What does that match up with? What does to safeguard match up with? All right. Brenda says it's E, to protect, and very good. You're correct. To protect, to safeguard means to protect. Now, would you normally use that word in your English when you're writing or when you're speaking? It's a perfectly good word to use. And so instead of saying to protect, you can say to safeguard. And the last one, number 5, of course, would be the last one, A. Proprietor is an owner. A proprietor is another word for an owner. So those are 5 examples of vocabulary words associated with the topic property. Remember what I said earlier when you're trying to learn these vocabulary words by lists? If you learn words that are associated with a broader topic, it's easier for you to remember them and for your brain to recall them instead of just individually isolated words. So we have lease, liability, asset, safeguard, and proprietor. All right, so you have the 5 definitions here for these words. All right, and here are the answers. So when you download the handout, you'll have the answers here for you if you didn't get them while we're doing the presentation right now. Okay. Well, that takes us to the end of our presentation. Let's review over what we've learned so far today. Now, as I said, this is the first in a 3 series. Following this presentation, there are 2 more on the collocations, idioms, and phrasal verbs up next. And then following the next day on topic vocabulary and the IELTS. So we talked about the 3 vocabularies, regular vocabulary as I call it, collocations, idioms, and phrasal verbs, and topic vocabulary for the IELTS. How to build your vocabulary, how to know a word, key prefixes and suffixes, synonyms and antonyms of words, and then we looked at property for an example of IELTS Vocabulary 1, which is just, as I call it, usually regular vocabulary. So that wraps up our presentation today on vocabulary. Does anyone have any questions about building your vocabulary, using vocabulary on the IELTS exam? Let me take a couple of minutes here, a couple of seconds here and check and see, does anyone have any questions about IELTS vocabulary? IELTS vocabulary. No? Oh, let's see. Lynchy has her hand up? Okay, let's see. Lynchy? Hello? Can you unmute yourself, Lynchy?
I'm sorry. No,
Oh,
nothing.
okay. No, that's all right.
I'm
You
sorry.
have a question about IELTS vocabulary?
So far, no, nothing.
No?
Thank you.
Okay. All right, no problem. No problem. Okay, so that will wrap it up for today's presentation. Stay tuned for, or sign up. I don't know, maybe you've already received the sign up for the next 2 series where we'll continue to talk about IELTS vocabulary. Make sure that you're doing your daily readings and building your vocabulary every day as well. Thank you very much for attending today. Don't forget to download the handout. And I look forward to seeing you in the next webinar presentation on IELTS vocabulary. Have a good rest of your day, and thanks again for attending.